Ah, the stock sniper rifle. The most consistent and accurate of the stock primaries, with the well-placed, fully charged shot taking out any of the 9 classes, even with overheal. Even with the more offensive options such as the Classic or the Poacher's Pride, they're exceptional options for high damage yet accurate primaries. Truly, all of Marksman's primaries are able to be used in some way consistently, accurately, and fairly for both the Marksman himself and his enemy. Okay, what the hell is that? What in the actual fuck? The most defining trait of Marksman is that he is the only class in the game that has infinite range with the capability of instantly killing a fully overhealed brute. This is all made up for with his limited mobility options, his low health, and his secondaries outdamaged by other options. The Huntsman, on the other hand, is a projectile weapon pretending to be a sniper rifle. All of Marksman's primaries are hit scan weapons, obviously, so dealing damage is instant. The Huntsman is a projectile, which the projectile hitbox is client-sided. The visual projectile is server-sided. The projectile also arcs, the projectile can have different speeds, and you can kind of guess where this is going. Another thing to note is that the Huntsman's arrows are going to be a lot worse the farther you are from your target. You can still annihilate people at marksman range if you're good enough with the travel time and arcing, and although not impossible, although it feels like it, but you can outsnipe other marksmen using stock. Just keep in mind that their shots are instant and yours aren't. But, among the downsides of using arrows instead of bullets, what does the Huntsman grant for you in return? For starters, the upsides on the Huntsman are, hold up, give me a second. Alright, now with the proper stats, we can actually get more into depth on the Huntsman. The most notable thing about the Huntsman is its charging speed. We're losing. Oh, okay. Oh, damn, bruh. I just feel bad for that guy. It charges only a third of how long it would take for stock to charge, which is 3 seconds to 1 if you were wondering. This charging speed isn't just useful for getting full charge, no. Now, you could charge up the Huntsman slightly or halfway to kill anything short of a brute. You may point out the minus 20% damage penalty being an issue, but it is more of compensation, as otherwise the Huntsman would be a bit too out of hand. Also, quick note about the Huntsman. Since you aren't as stationary as regular marksmen, catching agents is going to be a pretty common occurrence, which can lead to some pretty funny situations like this. Anyways, back to my point. Honestly, I don't know why it's so easy to headshot agents. Maybe it's because of their predictable movement when disguised. I just don't know, to be honest. Oh, and almost forgot to mention one thing. The Huntsman is pretty much a guaranteed death sentence to any brute that you see for a brief second. You see, unlike stock, it's not limited to a lengthy charge time to cover a brute's health threshold. You only need a second for it to charge to wipe them off the board. This can really help with situations where a brute is up close to your face and is about to rev up, but then... yeah, you just snipe them in the head. But even with the cap of 360 damage, there is no up-close damage reduction, and troopers equipped with the battalion's backup while being overhealed are still one-shot. You can just casually lob down arrows in a choke and hit some lucky shots, which brings us to our next set of stats. Marksman sniper rifles have a somewhat slow reload as to make them not too oppressive when moving forward. The Huntsman, however, reloads in half the time of stock, and much like the Poacher's Pride and Classic, can perform headshots without zooming in, although it is a bow and arrow and should be pretty obvious. The fast reload and quick charge of the Huntsman makes it exceptionally well for quick kills on multiple targets, unlike standard marksmen who struggle because, the 3-second charge time. This also makes it a great sentry buster as well, as, unlike traditional marksmen who, although are going to usually outrange sentries, they have to wait 3 seconds for only dealing 150 damage on a single shot weapon. The Huntsman, on the other hand, can reliably two-shot any leveled sentry and one-shot any mini-sentry, much like the direct hit. The stats the Huntsman offers enforce close to medium range combat with a strong yet volatile quick primary. The arrows losing accuracy after 2 seconds isn't much of a problem when you can reset the draw and fully charge in a second. The slower movement speed doesn't matter at all that much when you can start charging in the air, similar to jump revving. The damage penalty doesn't matter that much because of the quick charge. Even if a brute is being overhealed, the Huntsman reloads and charges so fast that you can just 2-tap him. With the Huntsman out of the way, let's dig into the best secondaries for this weapon. Now, as far as I'm concerned, the only secondaries that are going to be any useful are the MAC-10, Suppressed Solution, and the Deagle. As for why you wouldn't equip the other secondary options, let's start off with the backpacks. The Razorback's only useful stat would be the increased movement speed because you're going to be on the move a lot. Also, with the Huntsman, catching agents is going to be a lot easier as you don't have a scope to look down. But even with the increased movement speed, you're moving only slightly slower than a brute for at most 2 seconds because of this stat and again, how proactive you're going to be. As for the Cozy Camper, although you're going to be more aggressive and end the fight, you want to put yourself just right behind your team since you're still a light class. This gives you easier access to a doctor, dispense, or even just a health pickup. Alongside this, you also want to try to damage surf since you lack mobility options and want to take as little damage as you can, so this knocks out 2 of the Cozy Camper stats. The last set of not flinching while aiming and fully charged is also useless since, well, you never flinch when aiming with the Huntsman in the first place. The last backpack, being the Turtle Rock, is the only one that I think has legitimate use, since it increases your base health, which isn't useful unless you're overhealed, which gets you past these health thresholds. The fire resistance is nice and all, but I don't think you get any use out of— Holy shit! Now for the Lemonade. Although it breaks the light class health threshold with a fully charged body shot, you can just shoot them twice. Anyways, back to the point. If you want mini-crit fully charged body shots, just use the Suppressed Solution. As mentioned several times, you're going to be up with your team and having a backup option is something you need 100%, especially as a class as light as you. The MAC-10, Suppressed Solution, and Deagle are simply better options on the Huntsman because not only are they the best options on marksmen in general, but they're all backup weapons who can save your life in a pinch or even for scenarios when firing an arrow just isn't worth it. It's up to preference, but the MAC-10 is good for spy checking and is easier to aim. The Suppressed Solution is good for either extra damage or one-shot body shots. The Deagle's accuracy and mini-crit headshots makes it a great 1-2 combo or a replacement sniper rifle. The Huntsman is tailor-made for fast, offensive pressure and establishes itself as a very strong primary in marksman's arsenal. But if you can kill more people with it faster than stock, then why doesn't every marksman use it? Well, for one, normal marksman is still enjoyable, myself included, and also the fact that this is all on paper. In reality, using the Huntsman is like playing Trollbird, you're only nerfing yourself for the funny. Think about it though, really. Why not just play Annihilator or use a direct hit on Trooper? Instead of a single shot projectile with variance in its projectile speed, why not have 4 high damaging projectiles which can be even more lethal when paired with your other weapons or using buffs? Sure, those weapons can one-shot, except for one, but that got changed. But Trooper and Annihilator have higher health, higher mobility options, better control, and are just straight up better projectile classes. All these clips I've been showing are only the flashy headshots, not the amount of times I've struggled hitting anyone with this thing, and even when I did, it didn't feel impressive. Even with this headshot on this doctor, I don't feel satisfied like an Annihilator, like, damn, I just mopped the floor with this flanker. I just feel like, wow. Well, that was lucky. It's most likely me just sucking at the Huntsman's projectile or me not understanding the weapon, but god, this does not feel enjoyable to use. And I think there might be a reason for why this thing is a rarity on the battlefield. It's just not reliable, it's hard to aim, and the weapon just does not feel enjoyable to use. But what if it wasn't this way? What if it was reliable? What if it was enjoyable to use? As good as it is on paper and more popular? Yeah, I think you know where this is going. Okay, so 4,000 years ago, the Huntsman connected his hits using the player's projectile hitbox, not the hitscan hitbox. Wait, wrong footage. Okay, so 4,000 years ago, the Huntsman connected his hits using the player's projectile hitbox, not the hitscan hitbox. The projectile hitbox is much bigger because, well, it'd be nearly impossible to hit anything directly with a projectile, so the Huntsman was given more leeway in terms of what counted as a headshot. The TC2 devs saw this as an issue and changed it from using a projectile hitbox to using a hit scan hitbox in April of 2021. Although initially this does look like a good change as it makes it harder to aim for headshots, what it did was make the weapon extremely excruciating to aim because the arrow just travels so fast and the projectile's hitbox is extremely small, resulting in situations like this. So what's there to say about the Huntsman? If we reverted back so we use projectile hitboxes, it would be useful, sure, but then it would be considered a skilled weapon and retain its nickname of being called the Lucksman. But if we keep it how it is now, it's just a bad gimmick. Honestly, if I had to pick an option, I'd just say revert it back and make it connect with the projectile hitboxes, and if you wanted to nerf it, give it back its old stat of not doing full crits when not fully charged. At most, a mini crit headshot would only kill up to a doctor without overheal, and with this change, and with how fast it charges, it'd still be easy to fully charge it for a full crit. Now I could already see some of you guys saying, oh, but then it'd make it extremely cancerous to fight a marksman who can vomit out fast 122 instant kill projectiles. And to that I say, within the context of the game, I don't think that's the most you should really be worrying about in terms of high damage projectiles. In the end, the Huntsman's just too unreliable and requires too much effort for less results. The Poacher's Pride, Classic, and even Efficient Eliminator are better options for offensive marksmen, for the simple fact that they're hit scan. Maybe sometime in the future, they'll update and revert the changes, but for the moment, I'll just stick to stock.
I'll shut it off! You guys bet channel points and you lost. We're not refunding. I said specifically to send in Clash Royale. Bernard! The baby dragon doesn't have an Evo.